Hi, I'm Josh Kelly from The Collective, back again with another regional win. So twice this month, which is great. This time was a lot bigger one. The UK Open, I came first. I went 9-0. There were 360 people. I played pure Mitsurugi. I want to shout out all my friends who helped me test. I think the deck was a great call, and it felt really strong all day. I also want to shout out Europa Gaming, who are having a regional in 2 weekends in London, and it's going to be amazing. There's some amazing prizing there. So if you're able to, come down, and it would be amazing to see everyone there. Also, I've started a coaching service now. So if you're interested in upping your Yu-Gi-Oh skill and finding out what it takes to be the best, have a look down in the description at my Metafy, or you can privately message me on Facebook, which will be down in the description as well. Also, subscribe. I always forget to say that in the videos. Let's get into the deck. So I played pure Mitsurugi. My reasoning for playing pure Mitsurugi was the Yami matchup is insane, and if you play technically very well, the Jay Patels and the Vanquish matchups can be very good as well. So to start off, of course, played 3 Habakiri. This card is just insane into the meta. The only card that interacts well with this is K9 Ripper. So, and a lot of the Vanquish lists have started cutting the K9 packages. So this card's incredible. And then 2 Murakumo. 2 Murakumo is mandatory in any pure Mitsurugi deck, as there's many times where one will get banished and the second one comes up summoning in your opponent's turn. I had a feature match in the final round, and one of my Murakumos was taking control with talents, and then I just summoned the other one in my opponent's turn. So yeah, 2 is mandatory. Also, opening this card with a way to play is incredible. And then the 1 Futsu. Futsu again is great on your end board. Just makes your board so much more powerful and your recursion insane. And it also allows you to play incredibly well through board breakers, because board breakers trade incredibly poorly into Futsu, and if you use your interruption in the correct order, then it's great. And then for the little guys, I played 2 Aramasa, 1 Saji, 1 Kusanagi, and 1 Night Sword Serpent. I think all of these 5 are mandatory, but you don't want to play any other normal summons, like the 3rd Aramasa, or I've seen the Reptilian card. Because in Mitsurugi, you don't want to start off with one of your normal summons, because they're the weakest starter. And you always access a normal summon through your combo. So you always want to start off with your spell cards. And also, in the deck, I play a lot of Molcharmies, as the deck can be slightly inconsistent. So you always want those Molcharmies to make your deck a bit more consistent. And so you always have a level 4 that you can put on the board. So there's no reason to play more normal summons, as they are always your weaker starters. And then I also played 3 Prayers. Of course, this card is insane. I always play 3 of this in a Mitsurugi deck. And 3 Ritual, which I think is mandatory in any pure Mitsurugi deck. This is the best way to start off your turn every single game, is to activate a hard drawn Mitsurugi Ritual. It plays insanely into boards, it plays insanely into hand traps. Yeah, Mitsurugi Ritual, you want it in your hand every single time. Obviously, there are situations where you draw a dead Mitsurugi Ritual. Sometimes you draw 2, but I think the payoff of when you draw it and it's live, it's so incredibly strong that it just doesn't make sense not to play 3. And then 3 pre-prep, incredible card. 1 pre-prep beats Dominus Impulse. 1 Habakiri can beat Dominus Impulse, which is just insane. And with people cut and draw from their decks, this card just feels as that much stronger. And then the 1 Mirror. I've been to 3 OTS championships and this regional with this deck, and the only match that felt unwinnable was when I drew pre-prep Mirror 2 games in a row, which can be unfortunate. But if you have a way to play, then the Mirror is still always a good draw. And then we've also got the 1 Magatama, which I think is mandatory in any Mitsurugi deck that uses Mitsurugi as the main engine, because the effect of Ritual Summon in your opponent's turn is so impactful. Magatama is incredible. I don't think the trap is needed in the main deck. It honestly just never comes up for me. If I managed to get to a point where I could search the trap, then I was probably winning that game anyway. And then I played 1 Plot of Prosperity, disgusting card. And in my previous list at Euros, I played 41 cards. Today I played 40 cards. And I took out 3 Jarl and Lockbird, and I played 2 Pot of Extravagance. There are some unfortunate things with the extra deck, which you do occasionally lose a game because you don't have the correct extra deck cards. But Pot of Greed is just insane. Drawing 2 cards is insane. And because a lot of people are taking draw out of their decks, this card feels so much better. Yeah, drawing 2 cards, can't complain. And then I played Cool Buy and Talents. Because this deck feels so strong into the other engines of Vanquisher, Jay Patels, and Yummy, I felt there wasn't as much of a need to play a really high hand trap count. And these cards help you deal with the things like a Cool Buy deals with the Herald, which is your problem against Yummy. And it lets you deal with the non-engine because the engine realistically isn't that scary because Murakumo deals with so much of it. And then I played the 1 Nibiru, the 1 searchable Nibiru. This card's mandatory. No matter what list you play, I have some friends who are playing a breaker list at this event, but no matter what, you have to play the 1 Nibiru to search. It's just so incredible going first. And then I played the 6 Molcharmies. I don't think these cards are mandatory in every deck anymore, which is great for the game. But in Mitsurugi, the deck is a little bit inconsistent. So these are consistency cards, which is great. And also the level 4 normal summon is really impactful and it can help you play better into hand traps. I think I normal summoned Fuel Loss almost 10 times during the tournament. There was one game which was really funny where my opponent only had a Holy Sue Steel left and I normal summoned the Fuel Loss. Holy Sue had to take the monster with the least attack and only has 100. So their only option was to take my Fuel Loss, and that sealed the game. So many times when I got Molcharmy this weekend, my opponent just got 0 draws. I think the only time they ever really are guaranteed a draw is if they chain Fuel Loss to your Habakiri. And then almost the reason to play this deck over the Ryziel variant is Dominus Impulse. The main problem with this deck in the format is the Vanquish Shoal Trap card. That protecting your opponent's board by card effects is a big problem, and Impulse just single-handedly just deals with that, and that's something you can't do in the Ryziel variant, which is why I much preferred this variant. Drawing this against Vanquish Shoal, you just feel like you're in such a dominating position, and it feels almost impossible to lose the game if you just save this for the trap, because the board wipe is so impactful, and the attacks from Murakumo is just so impactful. And then I also played 3 Imperm. Imperm deals with a few things. It can stop your opponent from getting to the Vanquish Shoal trap because you can Imperm the Mad Love or potentially a Xiaolong. And it can stop the Ripper, and it can stop the Herald of Arclight. So Imperm always felt quite good. And one thing, it covers one of the weaknesses in the deck going first, which is you don't have any hard negates because you don't play the trap. So just being able to Imperm a card to negate it on the end board is very nice. And then also you get to destroy cards with Impulse if you have an Impermanent Grave, which is nice. And then my extra deck. And then for the extra deck, because of Extravagance, I had to change it up and play some 2-ops. And I think the ability to consistently see some cards in your extra deck is better than the variety of some other ones I was playing previously. So I'm playing 2 IP, 2 Dynamondo, and 2 SP for my link package. I've seen people play 2 Dynamondo just without Extravagance, which I don't think makes sense to me, because Dynamondo very rarely comes up for me twice in the game, and it's also turned off by Impulse. But yeah, IP is incredible. Just the ability to put the Murakumo back in your grave when you need to summon it with Futsu is really important. So prioritizing IP on your end board is really good. And there also are some cool situations where you get Nibiru'd and the second IP comes up. You get Nibiru'd after the first IP, and then you make a second one with the token, which is nice. So there are some nice things just about playing 2, even when you don't draw Extravagance. And then for the last Link monster, I played 1 Dark Charmer. Dark Charmer is amazing in a variety of matchups, but I expected to see a decent amount of Mitsurugi today. And Dark, along with Light Dragon and Agnista, are amazing in the Mitsurugi mirror match. I played a pure Mitsu mirror in round 8, and I banished both of these off Extrav, and that was the reason I lost the game 1, which was a bit unfortunate. And then the last 2 I played with 2 Guy and Granite. Searching the Nib is just so impactful that I think this card warrants 2 spots. There was a game where I got nibbed on the summon of the first one and I summoned the second one, because in Pure Mitsurugi you have access to 4 level 4 bodies if you have the full combo. So often you can summon Gallant Granite and do Garos. But in that situation I just got to summon 2 Gallant Granites. And then Baguska. Baguska is insane against Vanquish Shoal, which is incredible, but also this is your backup plan. Almost every single line in this deck can summon a Baguska through Droll and Lockbird. It was a lot more important before when everyone was main decking Droll, but it still comes up now. and then King of the Paralymps. There's some specific combos that you do to play around Dominance Impulse, and if you get impermed on those combos, then the King of the Paralympics comes up, which is why I played it. That never came up, but for those specific lines, I think it's quite important. And there also are games where you could potentially... I don't play that many normal summons, but if I normal summon Aramasa and it gets interrupted, on the next turn I could potentially normal a Charmy to get my combo started. So there's a world where it comes up, but it just didn't come up for me this weekend. And then one Dugares as the other option to summon going first to draw cards. And it also, Dugares is just really versatile. The ability to double sometimes comes up. I think in any rank 4 deck you probably play this. Exton, which I think I regret. There were never really opportunities where I had less cards than my opponent. So this card was never live, and I didn't summon it a single time. It's always turned off by Impulse. I think the card I like to play instead is Tornado Dragon, which is also turned off by Impulse, but the spell and trap removal could be quite nice. But often the games where I do need spell and trap removal are winnable regardless, but I think Tornado Dragon would have been nicer than the Exton right there. And then the last card is Typhon. Typhon is amazing. I think any deck that has extra space should play a Typhon. And then for the side deck, I played, so for the going first cards, I played the Tunabiru. If you don't have to make Gallant Granite and you just get to hard search it, it's great. If you get Fool Lost and you don't want to make Gallant Granite and you just hard draw it, it's great. And then the one Purification is a searchable Omni Negate, which is great. And then cross out. For the hand traps that you want to cross out, there's Ash Blossom, which I played one of. I don't think Ash Blossom is amazing. I'm often not trying to skip my opponent's turn because I think the Mitsurugi stuff trades well into boards right now. So I don't think it's great, but it is an amazing cross-out target because some hands do just lose to an Ash. And then to side out the 6 Charmies, I would side in these 5. And then for my last card is 1 Solemn Judgment. It doesn't exactly make sense that you have 1 Solemn Judgment in your side until you understand the siding patterns. And it is great to have a card to dig off with the Pot of Prosperity or the Dugares sometimes. Yeah, so the 1 Judgment. And then for my last solely going first card, I played 1 Rivalry. I didn't see Rivalry this whole weekend. It's mainly for Vanquish Soul. But I didn't lose a game against Vanquish Soul, so I didn't end up going first. In theory, it's great. Yeah, we'd probably still play it. Rivalry is just a broken floodgate, right? There's a world where you play Goza match as well. And then I also decided to side deck 3 Droll. This sometimes comes in as a cross-out target in over 1 Imperm. But the main reason this was in my side was actually for Vanquish Soul, not for the Mitsurugi decks. Droll and Lockbird often against Vanquish Soul will stop them from getting to the trap card, where a Ghost Ogre on the field spell normally does stop them as well. The Ghost Ogre has less coverage where it's not a cross-out target, and it also isn't very good against the Mirror Match or Rizal matchups, so I felt this was better. And Droll was great. I drew it once against Vanquish Soul and it stopped them from getting to the trap. And often against Vanquish Soul, if they get to the trap and you don't have an Impulse, it can be a really difficult game. So I think this was a great card to side. I played the 1 Wosu. I played this previously for Lunalight. Now there's less respect on Lunalight. This card's great to out DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. So I would still play it for all the Fiendsmith decks. I played 1 Shifter. I actually only drew this once and I lost that game. But Shifter's incredible. It barely affects this deck. I think you just have to play Shifter in any deck that can play it, because if you draw this against the Rogue decks, it's often just an insta-win. It's incredible against Youngie, it's incredible against Jay Patels, and it does stop some of the K9 players like Izuna. And then for the last 3 cards in my side, I played a Duster and 2 Lightning Storm. These have a few applications, but essentially these destroy the back row, Murakumo destroys the monsters, and then you attack for game. Simple. Yeah, these cards are incredible because the engine just trades so well into boards, and they're just generically nice. I always like to have a siding pattern for when my opponent blind scoops, and these feel incredibly safe to side in, and they were great. So yeah, that's my pure Mitsurugi deck profile from the UK Open. It was a great event. Thanks to all my friends who helped me practice, and thanks to my dad for filming this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.